other day I was sitting around the house and I was thinking of something that actually I learned in school. I guess it was in end of 2010, so it's been a little bit over a year, about a year and a half ago. And it was from a music class that I took, and I went and got out my old notes, started looking through it, and I was trying to figure out what it was called. But there's a thing in music, I'm not going to get into all the terms, but one of the most primitive forms of a type of texture of music called polyphony is something called a round. And a round is where you start a song, and then when you get to the first part, another group starts singing the same song. And even though they're singing the same song at different times, it all goes in and goes together. Matter of fact, has anybody ever heard the song "Row, Row, Row Your Boat"? Anybody ever heard that? All right, we're going to try something this morning. It might work, it might be a total disaster. But what we're going to do is I'm going to start over here, and y'all are going to start singing "Row, Row, Row Your Boat." And then when I do here, y'all are going to keep singing the song. You're not going to stop, you're going to sing the whole song. When I do here, then y'all are going to start with "Row, Row, Row Your Boat." And then we're just going to see how it all sounds. But you keep going until the end. Y'all will end first because you're starting first. And they will end last. I want to see how this works out, okay? So when we get ready to start, we'll start over here. When I point over here, then y'all are going to start. All right, everybody ready? I want you to sing very, very, very loud. Ready? All right.
Down the stream, merrily, 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 merrily.
Praise the Lord. Amen. Y'all give yourself a round of applause. That is what is referred to in music as a round, where you start and then the other one comes in and it all sort of comes together. And it's sort of fun, and it's all going to make a little bit of sense here in a little bit. Anyway, if you would flip over to the book of John, chapter 6, 15 through 21. The book of John, we're going to be in chapter 6, going from 15 through verse 21. The book of John, chapter 6, verses 15 through 21. Would you please stand for the reading of God's word? Gospel of John, chapter 6, starting with verse 15. Therefore, when Jesus perceived that they were about to come and take him by force to make him king, he departed again to the mountain to be by himself alone. Now when evening came, his disciples went down to the sea, got into the boat, and went over the sea toward Capernaum. And it was already dark, and Jesus had not come to them. Then the sea arose because a great wind was blowing. So when they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus walking on the sea and drawing near the boat. And they were afraid. But he said to them, "It is I, do not be afraid." Then they willingly received him into the boat, and immediately the boat was at the land where they were going. The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
You may be seated. It is the second Sunday in Lent. And each moment that passes, we are rowing closer and closer to Easter Sunday. We are getting closer and closer to Christ giving his life and defeating death so that we could enjoy everlasting life. We are rowing and getting closer and closer. You know, I love the song "Row, Row, Row Your Boat" because if you think about it, if you really think about it, it's really how life is. Listen to the words of it. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Think about it. Life is usually just a nice leisurely row. It's downstream, it's gentle, everything's peaceful, no problems. It's very merry, merrily, merrily, merrily. Everything's a dream. And life is just easy. You sail along, no difficulties, no storms. I mean, that's just how life is. Everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy. That's not how life is. Y'all feel the same way I do. That isn't how life is. Life isn't one of these things where it's always downhill and you're just rowing and it's very easy. A lot of times life is more like rowing upstream against the current. A lot of times life can be more like a maybe like a nightmare than a dream. Have you ever felt that you were rowing against the current? Raise your hand. Have you ever felt like you've been rowing against the current? Anybody ever felt like part of your life was something out of a Stephen King nightmare novel or something? You ever have one of those moments? Sometimes life can be like that. So as we're rowing toward Easter, as we're going through Lent and we're making our way, we have to look back and say, you know what? Life gives us a lot of everything. It's not always merrily, life is but a dream. I want to read y'all the words to a journal entry of a missionary. This person did a lot of great work for the Lord, is still doing great work for the Lord. But these are a few of the journal entries for a missionary many years ago. Now I want you to follow along. This is on his flight to the field. He is on his flight heading to the field to become a missionary. He's wanted this for so many years. Him and his family are heading, and he's excited. So I want you to listen to the flight over. The next time this plane touches down, I will be a missionary for good. Yes, finally, to God be the glory. Day number 3. God, it's a grand blessing to serve you. The people are so friendly. The mountains are so pretty. Our friends are so gracious. Things are wonderful. Everything's going great. Day 5. Today is not so clear. The clouds have buried the mountains. The sky is gray. Day number 8. This hotel room, which has been our home, is cold and impersonal. The tall ceiling, the strange walls, the unfamiliar surroundings. I held my wife as she wept, and we both confessed the ugliness of the thought of spending the rest of our lives in this foreign country. It's hard. We're so far from home. Day number 12. I wish I could say I'm thrilled to be here. I'm not. I'm only willing to be here. This last week was tough as I've ever had anywhere. My commitment to the missionary feels more like a prison sentence. You know, as I read those words, I thought to myself, you know, that just doesn't make any sense. That just does not make any sense. How could this be? You're going out to do mission work. You're going out to do God's work. You're going out to do as you were told. How could you feel this way? Doesn't peace always follow obedience? When you're doing God's work, doesn't it always mean your life's going to be peaceful? Isn't that how it's supposed to be? Doesn't peace always follow obedience? I started reading the scripture and I thought to myself, I think Jesus' disciples may have had that same expectation. Jesus' disciples may have had that same expectation. Following Jesus is going to mean peace. It's going to mean joy. It's going to mean happiness. When they got in the boat, this is what we have to realize. It says that they went and got in the boat. If you look at the translation in Mark, it says he told them to get in the boat. Other translations, different book translations of the Bible, some of them say he made them get in the boat. He insisted they get in the boat. No matter how you look at it, when they got into the boat, they were just following orders. They had just got through feeding the 5,000. Everybody was rushing around and trying to get a hold of Jesus to force him to become king. They were trying to do all this stuff that wasn't his purpose to be here. And he went ahead and told the disciples, go get in the boat and go. I'll meet up with you later. Go get in the boat. So when they got in this boat, all they were doing was following orders. All they were doing when they got in the boat was doing what Jesus told them to do, what they were instructed. Let's see what their reward was. It was dark, and they were in the middle of a storm. So they're following Jesus' instructions. They get in the boat. We know that it's dark. We know that they are in the middle of a storm. They are scared to death. They are tired and weary for rowing and rowing and rowing. It's not everything that they expected. Jesus said, get in the boat. Get in the boat. He commanded. He insisted. And now they're right in the middle of a storm for following what God told them to do. Row, row, row your boat. It's supposed to be a gentle stream, downhill. It's supposed to be merry. It's supposed to be a dream. It's supposed to be wonderful. You know, and I might be different. I understand the reasoning, but it's one thing to suffer for doing wrong. It's one thing to suffer because you made some foolish choices. It's one thing to suffer because you've done some sins that have led you into suffering. It's one thing to suffer because you've made bad decisions. It's one thing to suffer because somebody else made some bad decisions that affected you. You ever been there where you were doing right, but somebody else's ignorant decisions just sort of moseyed on over into your life and sort of messed you up? It's one thing to suffer for doing wrong, but how in the world can you suffer for doing right? How can you suffer for doing what Christ has told you to do? Get in the boat, they did what he said, and now they're in a storm scared to death. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense. You may be thinking, well, Pastor, does that really happen? Do people who follow God, do people who follow Jesus and his commandments, do they really get into storms? Isn't that really a reflection that truly they're not following them? They say they are, but their heart isn't right. Because a lot of people will tell you, a lot of these people on TV that are healing people, if the healing doesn't work, they will say, well, something in your heart is keeping you from being healed. Now all of a sudden it's the person's fault. Obviously, if things are bad in your life, you must be doing something wrong. Obviously, if the mother who has followed the doctor's directions and she's taken the vitamins and she's done like she's supposed to, she's eaten the right food, she didn't wear makeup, she didn't get in the tanning bed, she did everything she was supposed to do while she was pregnant, but somehow or another, she miscarried. Sometimes you do what is right and things just do not work out. Sometimes you do what is right. Sometimes a student will, anybody ever seen anybody in their class in school cheating? I can remember when I was in school, and this probably happens today, somebody will get a hold of a copy of the test. Why is it that when they go and make the copy and pass it around to every student, and that one student says, no, I know it's a hard test, but I'm going to study. I'm going to stay up late, and I'm going to study hard, and I'm going to do what is right. And then when the test is taken, everybody that cheated got a big fat A. And the one who studied all night for this hard test, who just really stressed and worried about it, they get an F. Yes. How about the wife who gives the husband a second chance? I'm sorry, baby. It was a moment of weakness. It was an accident. I'm sorry. She gives him a second chance just to be betrayed again. So many times there are people in this world that do what is right. They do what God tells them to do, and it doesn't matter. They still find themselves in the middle of a storm. The wind blows, the boat rocks, and there is one question. Where's Jesus? The disciples are out on the water. The wind is blowing. They've been rowing. They are afraid, and they're looking around for Jesus. Where is Jesus? Where is Jesus in all of this? All we're doing is doing what we were told to do, and everything is falling apart. The storm is crashing down. Where is this Jesus? When you compare the info from all the different Gospels about this encounter, do you know how long they were rowing? 9 hours. 9 hours in a storm, going and going, wore out, tired, 9 hours. Why in the world did Jesus take so long? 9 hours, and Jesus knew they were in a storm. 9 hours rowing, 9 hours water crashing into the boat. They're taking the buckets, getting water out, water's coming in, the wind's blowing them all around. They're rolling, they go forward, it pushes them back even further. They go forward, it pushes them back. There they are, rolling and rolling and rolling. And Jesus, through the darkness, through the storm, he sees them, and it says he waited. He waited. He waited till the time was right. And they saw Jesus walking on the sea and drawing near the boat. They waited. Why 9 hours instead of 4 hours? Why 9 hours instead of 2 hours? Why 4 days instead of 2 days? Why is it that Jesus chooses 9 hours to show up instead of 2 hours? Why does he let them suffer? Why does God wait till the money is gone? So many people today are experiencing financial difficulties. Why is it when the debts and the collectors are calling and they're coming to repo the car and they're doing all this, why is it that God shows up once you've lost everything? Why is it that when you're praying for healing, God grants the healing, but He grants it on the other side of the grave? He doesn't grant it to the person that is here with you. Why is it that God waits so long sometimes to come and do what we want Him to do? As I thought about that and I searched to find that wonderful answer, that comment to drive it home, I came to this reality, I don't know. I wish I knew. If I could know and understand why God did this, praise the Lord. The things and the pain I could take from it. But I don't know why sometimes God waits. I don't know why sometimes we're in a storm, God is sitting there watching and He's not doing anything. He's just watching us in a storm. And we're being tossed and turned, and He's sitting there and He's watching and He's waiting until we've gone through it for a long time before He comes. But there is one thing I know for a fact. Everything that God does, everything that we endure is meant to bring us closer to God. When we do not hear God, I believe God is speaking. When we do not see God at work, I believe God is working. I believe that everything that He does is meant to be for our best. There's a story of two maestros. Y'all know what a maestro is? Story of two maestros, and they have heard of this young soprano that is just out of this world. So they have decided to go and listen to her. And as they're sitting there listening to her, one maestro looks over at the other one and says, "Oh, she has such a pure and beautiful voice." And the other maestro says, "She does. She'll sing even more better when her heart gets broken." Yeah. Sometimes in life, it takes a storm and it takes our heart being broken and our life being shattered to send out an even more beautiful song. Sometimes when we're in the midst of a storm, it is Jesus preparing us. Sometimes He is sitting there watching, saying, "No, I can't come yet because the song just isn't right. I need them to go through this because when they come out on the other side, the song that they will have will be beyond anything they could ever believe they could do." Sometimes Jesus watches because He's getting the song ready. Sometimes it takes a heartbreak to understand. And you have heard so many people that sing music, and I don't care what genre they sing music, and it's sort of, sometimes it's a wonderful, happy kind of sound, and then they go through something in their life, and now all of a sudden their songs are more powerful, they're deeper, they're more beautiful because they've experienced heartbreak. They've experienced something that has devastated them, and now there's emotion and there's reasoning behind their song. So where does that leave us? When you leave here today and the next storm comes up, you're saying, "Pastor, where does that leave me?" The next time I'm facing a storm, the next time I'm in the middle of a storm, what can I take with me today that will help me? What do I need to do? You need to do as the disciples did. Row. Row. You stay in the fight, you stay in the game, you sit there and you row. You may be scared, you may be tired, you may be weary, it may be dark, the storm may be pushing you back, and you may feel like you're not gaining any ground. Have you ever rode through life, and it's all right to be in a storm if you're making some progress. But have you ever been in a storm and you're rowing, but it seems like you're actually going backwards instead of forwards? That's what you do, you row. Because the most important message throughout this whole entire 6 verses has not even been touched upon. Do you know what Jesus was doing while they were in the middle of the storm? He was alone praying. When you are in a crisis, when you're in trouble in your life and the demons are coming and darkness is setting in all around you, you row and you let Jesus Christ pray. You let Jesus Christ do what He does and you do what you do. You stay in it, you don't give up, you keep rolling, you keep fighting and getting back up, and you overcome, and when you get knocked down, you get back up, and you do what the disciples did, you rowed, and you let Jesus Christ do what Jesus Christ does. He prays over us, He heals us, He loves us. That is what is an important message. When He finally knew that they had had enough, He came walking on the water. He did not call them and say, hey, y'all row over here to shore so I can get in the boat. He said, no, I will walk across the water. You just saw me feed 5,000. And the extra that you took is in the boat. All you have to do is look over there and see the extra fish and the extra loaves to realize my power. But I understand it's too dark and you can't see it. So I will come to you. I will walk out on the water and I will let you know why you were scared. I was up there on the mountain talking to my daddy about you. Let me tell you what, Jesus Christ will never be asleep at the wheel. Jesus Christ will never be somewhere just taking a break. He doesn't need to go to the beach to relax. He doesn't need to go up on the mountain to just get away. Everything that he does is for us. And that is what we need to keep in mind as we row closer to Easter. Second Sunday of Lent, and we're getting closer, and we're rolling, and we're rolling. And it's not downstream and it's not a dream. But Jesus Christ is there and he is waiting. And we will make it to him.